All set? Mr. Spingar, all set?
Yep.
Mr. Senate?
Yeah.
All set?
Yep.
I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Westtown Township Planning Commission tonight, Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026 at 7 o'clock sharp. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you join me, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Next order of business is the adoption of the agenda for tonight. A motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for the adoption of the agenda with one change, and that would be that we take the first piece of old business, the land development application, as our first order of business, and then move the zoning map amendments to after that piece of business.
All right, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second it.
All right, is there any discussion? Any concerns? Any comments? Any comments from our remote audience? None. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of adopting the agenda as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? No opposed. The agenda is adopted as amended. Now we move on to the approval of the minutes of our meeting of May 20th, 2026. A motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the minutes as drafted for the meeting of May 20th, 2026, that those minutes be adopted.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Is there any discussion, any changes, any additions?
I
Mr. Pingard.
communicated several,
Right, if you didn't have any changes.
as requested from Ms. I think of you as Ms. Robinson, but I'm sorry. Mila, I communicated to her a few typo comments and questions, and she said she would take care of them.
Yep.
But they were very minor, and I wasn't at the meeting, so I could not attest to what was stated, except the fact that I found some local typos.
Very good. Ms. Carter, did you make those changes?
I will.
You will. Okay, are there any substantive changes?
No.
All right, very good. Any other questions or concerns? All right, any comment from the audience? Is there any comments from our remote audience? All right, hearing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of adopting the minutes as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, the
Well,
motion carried.
I abstained because I was not at the meeting.
Yes, sir. Understood. All right, we move to announcements. Ms. Carter.
Just one announcement that the zoning hearing board application for 1032 and 1036 Wilmington Pike for DiSabatino design and build has been approved by the zoning hearing board with conditions. You should have in your packet the decision and the conditions. So if you have any questions, please let me know. The applicant is working on obtaining HOP and on a sanitary sewer connection before coming in with the land development plan.
So I saw that the zoning hearing board recommended or required an easement if there was to be use of the pool and patio equipment.
Yes, there was a very extensive discussion about who that pool would belong to and how it would be utilized. And that's the decision that they decided to make.
Was there anything unusual about the decision that you saw in your view?
I still think reverse subdivision would have been a better.
No, you and me both, but that was not to be.
No, they were trying to retain two uses on the property.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments about the zoning hearing board decision in the matter of DiSabatino Landscaping, Inc.
There is a hand raised.
Mr. Simkovich, speak.
Yes, hold on a sec. Let me get my video started here. Tony Simkovich, 821 Kimberly Lane in Westchester. Is that the old Abbey Green property that wants to be converted into a landscaping business?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. I have other questions on and just going down the route of the various properties there. Should I hold my thoughts or should I get it on the agenda now?
Yeah, if you would wait until we reach that agenda item, and I assume you're talking about the potential rezoning of a number of parcels.
Correct.
Okay, why don't we wait then until we get to that item and then we'll look for your comments.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right, now we move on to public comment, non-agenda items. Is there any comment? Can be virtually anything within reason. There any comment from our remote audience? There is none. Okay, I'm going to close the public comment period regarding non-agenda items that will move on to old business as our agenda has been adopted, and we will take the Spotless Car Wash. The applicant, Flagship Pennsylvania Propco LLC, is seeking preliminary final land development approval for the redevelopment of the former Rite Aid into a car wash. The subject property is a 2.2 acre parcel situated at the northwest corner of the intersection of Route 3 and Route 352, and it is located within the C1 Neighborhood and Highway Commercial Zoning District. At this time, the applicant is seeking feedback on the revised circulation layout. Sir.
Thank you. Good evening. May it please Plan Commission, my name is Mark D'Amico. I'm the attorney for the project in 109 Chesley Drive, Media, PA, and behind me is Kester Kelly, professional engineer with BL Companies. John Lombardo is also here to my right, as is Guy DiMartino of TPD, who's the traffic engineer. He's also a professional engineer. You summarized it quite nicely, so I would just say, remind the board that we were here on April 22nd, had at that point just received several review letters, and we walked through those at a high level and walked through the site plan, both with Kestra Kelly as well as Guy DiMartino. I'm sure you will recall that Al Federico, your traffic consultant, attended that meeting, had some comments regarding the traffic circulation. We agreed that it would be probably most efficient if we met separately with Al and got together. And I think there was actually a meeting, was it a virtual meeting or at the township? Virtual meeting, yeah. After that, as a result of that, between Guy and Kester, they came up with an alternate circulation plan that we'd like to present to you. Mr. Federico is not here, but I think Guy will attest to the fact that he's viewed that plan and is in support of the change in circulation that is shown on that. And what we thought is, rather than making the assumption that the Planning Commission would just follow along with Mr. Federico's guidance, that we would present that to you all, see if you're aligned with this new traffic circulation before we delve into the rest of the engineering to satisfy all the review comments, after which we would intend to come back and hopefully at that point get a favorable recommendation from you all. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
We did expect Mr. Federico tonight.
Yes, I just texted him.
Very good.
We
This
do.
will show in the middle of our
Yes,
presentation.
Yeah,
Then you won't have to certify.
He's probably expecting.
he was at the board meeting Monday, and as he was leaving, he said to me, "Rob, I'll see you Wednesday."
Yeah, I thought he was going to be here, but perhaps he has been delayed unexpectedly. So thank you. If you could sort of walk through what is new here and why it was done, that would be very helpful.
Sure. Good evening. When we were in front of Planning Commission last time, we had conversations about the site circulation and some of the concerns of crossing traffic, as well as, just understandably customers wanting to make sure it's very easy for them to get in, navigate the site and get out. So we present to you a revised layout. Again, we're reusing the existing building, so that remains the same. The pay stations on the left side of the building what we basically did was we almost reversed everything. So before, what the plan you see in front of you, we're entering the building near Westchester Pike and we're exiting near North Chester Road. That was reversed last time we were in front of you. So let me just walk you through how this site will function, and then I can highlight the changes from before. So you would enter the shared access drive between the existing building and the PNC Bank from either North Chester Road or Westchester Pike. You would circulate up closer to Westchester Pike and take a right into the site, where you'd circulate around the building and enter one of the 3 pay stations. As you recall, that's where you buy your car wash. If you're a member, you zip on through. All of the point of sale is done at that point. Then customers would circulate back in, enter in the wet wash, which is your typical exterior wash. And at that point, they could either leave the site. If they did that, they would circulate down and leave at the exit closest to Westchester Pike, but they could either go to Westchester Pike or North Chester Road on that access drive. They could circulate down and enter into one of the vacuum spaces where they self-serve, clean out the inside of their car. Or they could circulate, go through a queue lane, enter back into the car, into the building, go into one of the 2 dry belts where the customer gets out of their car, employees get in, clean out the inside, and then they leave. So what has changed with this plan besides the circulation is we are proposing to close the second entrance off of Westchester Pike, where you can kind of see the new green grass there. That used to be a right in and right out. That was one of the discussion points that we had specifically with Al. We did change the vacuum spaces to be angled spaces versus 90-degree, just to support the circulation and the one-way circulation. We previously had 9 vacuum spaces and now we have 7. We also shifted the mat washer to the same side as the vacuum spaces. That was a discussion we had about not wanting people to have to cross the queue lane to get to the mat cleaner. I'm sorry, I think I get that backwards, but so that's on the same side to eliminate that potential conflict. We've added some additional employee spaces since we did close that entrance off. Previously, we had 11 and now we're proposing 15. So one of the things that I'll just note before it's even asked is it's probably like a little bit unusual to look at it and see how are the employees getting to their spaces, because they're in some cases are going to have to almost go against traffic. But this has been discussed and we feel that confident that it will work. So the employees will be coming to the site at different times than the customers. And if there is a shift change, when customers are on site, they are trained to always yield to the customer, meaning if anybody's going to wait, it's going to need to be the employees. So there will be employees on site. There'll be an employee specifically at the entrance to the wet tunnel that can make sure that as the employees are coming in and out of their spaces, there's not any customer traffic that is confluent. Feel confident because that's the traffic flow that we can control. Employees are going to know the site the best, and it's something that we have control over the customers. We feel like we've taken a lot of the decision points away so that it's really clear where the customers need to go, and there's not that option to potentially have conflicting or crossing traffic. I can let Guy speak, but I know he's had the specific conversations with Al, and if he wants to kind of reiterate their conversation.
Al
Good
will
evening.
be here in 10 minutes. He thought it was at 7:30.
We can definitely wait. We can keep going, but we'll stay on it.
Guy, you have to talk for 10 minutes.
Okay, no, that's all right. I'll
Gotta
talk as well.
fill. You can talk about sports or.
Phillies are 0-0 when I park. Good evening, Guy DiMartino with TPD. I will add one other point. On the northernmost portion of this site, we're actually right where the cursor is, or if you can barely see it, near North Chester Road. You can see that gray car on the top of the screen. That's ingress only, meaning if you're going to access the drive-through, that's how you get in. Under the prior plan, that was reversed. It was one way coming out of there. And that was a concern of Al's, given the proximity to North Chester Road. So what we have shown is one way inbound, where that gray car is shown at the top of the screen. That's consistent with the current configuration of the former site. That was a one-way in, and that's what Al had requested.
Please tell us how you, if you can, using the schematic, how the employees are going to get to their parking spots, which are located, it looks like, along Westchester Pike. You can get in two ways.
Right, so they would generally go through the pay stations.
Okay?
They would go through the pay stations is the most ideal way for them to get into those spaces.
Would seem to me that it'd be a great temptation to come in off of Westchester Pike and then immediately turn left to get to the employee parking spots.
I don't disagree with you. That would be a great temptation to do that, but they're the employees. It's going to be signed, do not enter, right where the double arrows are shown, closest to Westchester Pike. That I will say that's a little, the quirk of this plan is how the employees access those spaces, but it's at the benefit of what we feel is addressing all the other
Better
issues.
circulation plan. You have it set up so that the vacuums occur after detailing, the self vacuums and mat washing stations. You have that after the wash or the detailing. I guess it wouldn't be necessary after detail. They're going to do that anyway. But is that the plan? After you get your car washed and you want to have your car vacuumed out yourself, you go over to one of those stations?
Yeah, so after you go through the first tunnel, the wash tunnel after the pay stations, customers have a choice. Do they leave the site? Do they go into the dry belt, or do they go to the vacuums? So that's their choice based on the circulation. Normally, a customer won't go through the dry belt and then go to the vacuums. It's already been
There'd be no
serviced.
reason to do that.
Yes.
And just to add, the decision point's really made at the pay station. It's not made when you exit the wet tunnel. You know at the pay station what you're gonna do, because you're gonna pay a different amount if you're going through just the wet wash and vacuum out yourself, or going through then the dry belt, detail belts. And it's always wet wash first and then vacuums.
Hmm.
And that's consistent with how the previous plan was intended to operate.
Okay. My impression is it's a better circulation plan. Any other questions for the applicant? We gotta fill this time.
I assume the areas that are crosshatched on the plan, that's not raised curbing or anything. That's painted on the on the parking surface or the asphalt or whatever.
Generally, yes, with the exception of between the queue lane and the lane behind the vacuums. That is rolled curb.
Okay.
And that's why we have those two like curb cuts to help with drainage. But generally, all of the other pavement marking is simply that pavement marking.
And I also assume that when you exit either the wet or the dry tunnels, I mean, just looking at a plan, it looks tight to me, but that doesn't mean anything. That's me looking at a plan that I don't understand. So I assume that turning radius is at the end of both the wet tunnel and the dry tunnel. I assume those turning radiuses are all well within accepted practice or standards for that kind of a turn.
That's correct. And we've done the like turning movement templates and
Yeah.
shown that to prove that.
Okay.
Can I follow up with a question? Unless if you're done?
Yeah.
How do you, if you're at the pay station and you just select dry tunnel service detailing, how do you get in to the dry tunnel?
Aha, you can't do that. You have to get a wet wash.
All right. And then you would have to circulate out and go down around toward Westchester Pike and get back into the queue to get into either one of the dry tunnels. Is that?
That's correct. Yep. You would come out of the wet wash, you take a right. So all the cars leaving either the wet wash or the dry belts take a right. So there's not that crossing traffic, which was a big part of our discussion last time. So, and then you would circulate back around. That provides additional queuing space for the cars before they enter into the dry belt. And also it's just a good like timing for the way the car wash operates. And so that the employees can kind of pace the timing as they get into the dry belts before they circulate back in.
And I'm assuming an employee would direct the car after being washed, which tunnel to go into, right?
Yes, absolutely. So when you pull in for the dry belts, there's employees there. You're going to kind of put your car in park, you're going to get out, the employee is going to get into your car and do the clean out. And it depends on if they have either both tunnels operating at the same time, both wet, both dry belts during busier times, and during less busy times, there would be one.
And then you're going to wait in the waiting room there, which is sort of at the entrance of the dry tunnels, right?
Yes, there's an interior waiting room.
Yeah, I like what you guys have done. I hadn't really thought much about, I thought the other one was okay and fine, but I do think this one it just does seem to flow much better, and I'm happy with what you've done, so.
And I likewise. However, I feel as though after someone goes through either one of the three tunnels and they want to leave the site, they're going to be tempted to just drive straight to where you used to be able to in the original plan, exit closer to Chester Pike.
Mhm.
And I know you have, for lack of a better term, painted gore markings. Why not curb that?
Initially, we try to minimize as much as possible curb to help just avoid people hitting curbs and doing the turning radius. But we can do something more physical there to prevent that. I think we can tweak the curb line in that area to prevent that from happening.
Well, this is a follow-on. Will there be a sign there that says, do not enter?
Absolutely. There's going to be signage, there's going to be pavement markings.
I don't see a marking for a sign where I see one out there, but I think what Mr. Pingar is suggesting is if you come out of the dry tunnel or the wash, you're going to be tempted to, instead of making that right-hand turn, you're going to try to go straight out to 352. So would it be possible, or is it advisable even to put a sign there saying, do not enter?
We can definitely put a sign, I don't think we would put it like in that striped area, but we can definitely make sure that there's adequate signage to show clear directions.
Yeah, I was just suggesting if it were curb
Mhm.
and landscaped, it'd be a barrier. People would physically not be able to drive over it, at least they shouldn't. And they're more likely to do the hard right turn and exit up at the, closer to Westchester Pike.
Mhm. Sure, we can definitely adjust the curb.
That's the only question. Oh, I have one more question. In the lower right-hand corner of the plan, it says provide concrete pad, producer pad. Was that for the blower motor?
For the vacuums,
For the vacuum motor?
correct. And I know we spoke about that last time as well. And I believe, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but John's willing to make that enclosed to help with cut down the noise coming from that.
Yeah, I guess when we talked last time, there was discussion about that. And that's your preference, but correct me if I'm wrong, it could physically be put inside the building.
Could be put inside the building.
Okay.
As I stated before, if you had lost all that, we prefer to be outside.
All right, no more questions.
Preferred and better functionality to have it closer to the vacuums.
Do you think that it can be adequately soundproofed or minimized if it's out there?
I believe it can be adequately, sound can be attenuated. I don't think it can be sound. I don't know exactly soundproof. Like there'll still be some noise, I'm sure, but we feel confident that we can mitigate that. We feel confident that we know based on our research that we can meet the sound ordinance.
Yeah, we're a little sensitive because there's been an ongoing problem at the ice rink, which is further down Route 3. And the noise that the chillers have produced over time has caused, in my opinion, only a sort of a public nuisance, even though it may not run afoul of our noise ordinance.
Understood. And we can provide that, like what is the levels without the enclosure versus what is the levels with.
I would personally like to see some sort of sound attenuation applied there.
Sure.
I'm just gonna be honest,
My bad. Since we only have 7 vacuums, that's not many. Sometimes we have 20 of them. We have bigger motors. This one would be a small motor. We generate a bunch of space.
so if you have a bigger motor, couldn't that overcome the head loss if it were inside the building? Couldn't you just use a bigger motor to overcome the head loss? All right, so I'm just gonna be honest, I'm just speaking for myself as one commissioner, one of 7. I'm not gonna vote for this if that vacuum motor is outside. Because while I respect what you're saying about attenuating the sound, we have history here, as Mr. Embick had indicated, Mr. Chairman. And if there's a way to avoid complaints from nearby residents about noise, and it's a reasonable accommodation, I think we should definitely consider that. And if you're unwilling to do that, personally, I'm not going to vote to approve this, but I'm only one of 7.
Yeah, and I would note that right across the street where Windermere enters 352 is a sort of a mixed use apartment complex and small office spaces. So I suppose the noise could be bothersome depending on what the magnitude of the noise is.
Understood.
Okay. Now,
Could I just ask real quick though?
yes, sir.
Westchester Pike is gonna be a lot of traffic noise. There's a lot of that consistent noise. My question would be, how much more noise is going to be that vacuum when it will possibly be drowned out by the traffic itself. So these communities are already used to hearing lots of traffic noise. If they are going to try to silence it as much as possible, I think that's one way of trying to address it without necessarily requiring them to put everything in the building. And I don't know, in the building, when the vacuum's running, would that create a sound issue for those that are in the waiting room or those waiting to, as a dry belts are going through, cars are going through the dry belt? Is that going to create a sound and noise issue for people inside the building, which I think is less desirable than sound outside the building?
I mean, definitely the noise from the vacuum motors typically drowned out by traffic noise, especially from a busy road like Westchester Pike. I don't know the answer about the vacuums, the motor inside, but we can look at that. And we definitely understand and hear your concerns about sound. And so one of the things we wanted to do tonight was come here, get some initial feedback on the circulation. And then we still have work to do to address the comment letters from your respective consultants. And that's something that we can address with our resubmission.
Could I also ask something too? I know you guys just built a new one up in Lower Providence, Spotless Car Wash. I think is that accurate? It looked like.
Yeah, it's true. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I pass it every day on my way to work. So I saw it coming in and stuff being built.
That
Um,
one's slightly different because it doesn't have the dry belts. It's a wet.
Right, but I know it does have a lot of vacuum.
It does have the vacuums,
A
correct?
lot. Okay. So if I say I wanted to stop by there on my way home one day from work around 3:30, do you think it'd be pretty active at that point that I could hear the vacuums running? Or I know it's dependent on, who's there.
That site, we've changed out the vacuum inducer motor because the equipment supplier changed manufacturer one country to another. So we have to replace the motors. So I think everything is operating properly.
Yeah.
We had a lot of electrical mess with it
Mhm.
for a while. Sort of.
But are you asking like, is there enough customers that you
Yeah, I was just.
understand?
I was just thinking, I know it's a brand new one that you guys just built. We're talking about the vacuums and the sound, and I'm like, all right, it's on my way.
This. Fix everything.
Yeah, no,
This is electrical mess.
right. And again, I was only thinking of if I could just hear what,
Mhm.
and I think you have a lot of pretty significant amount of vacuums there.
There's more vacuums there.
Yeah,
than we're
so it would be
proposing.
like, yeah.
There's also one in Phoenixville, if that's, convenient to you, but that's the same thing where that one has more vacuums than we're proposing here.
I believe it calls for the site visit. and
But we're
no check.
happy to arrange that. For sure.
My office used to be right next to this site. So I'm familiar
them
with it.
well.
Yeah, very much. And I'm not concerned about the noise so much. I think you should include some kind of plan for attenuating the sound. If you put the motor on the pad.
Mhm.
But overall, I don't think that's going to be a big, you're actually, where it's located is actually kind of pretty far from the offices or residences that are near there. So I'm not that worried about that. But can we hear from Mr. Federico as to whether?
I have
Welcome.
one question before Mr. Federico speaks. Make sure he waits. Did you still have a plan for restricting access to the site if the car queues start to push out onto either one of these highways? We can't have that, in my opinion.
Understood. We fully understand that, and we don't, in this configuration, we can prove that we have adequate stacking, but also, as we previously discussed, the employees on site will, not allow people to enter if for some reason something's not working properly or there's an issue and the queues are extending past the point, they'll just wave customers by.
All right, thank you. Mr. Federico, sir.
Good evening. My apologies. I
No big deal.
was still working on the Board of Supervisors schedule and thought it was 7:30.
No apologies. We're most happy to have you.
No, I think this circulation that's presented here addresses significant majority of the issues that were raised at the last meeting. By bringing it in through the back, they've been able to extend the available queuing, and by reversing the flow, the vehicles exiting the tunnel aren't crossing over the incoming traffic. So yeah, there's still the issue that the people coming out of the tunnels have to merge. As Mr. Pingar was saying, there's going to need to be adequate guidance for that. But I would expect that there'd be a lot less conflicts with this circulation, and really they pretty much removed them all.
Do you have any other concerns about traffic management, circulation that you want to?
No, I mean, I think we're still expecting, they've got to do a brief traffic study to comply with the ordinance. They're going to go to PennDOT. So, I mean, other than that, I don't have anything to add beyond what
Do you
was
have to
in
get
the
a
previous review letter.
Do you have to get approval to close the western entrance off of Westchester Pike?
Yes, work within the state right away.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Are
Al,
there any other questions? for Mr. Fair?
Al, do you have to get PennDOT approval of some sort because it's a change of use, even though they're not changing the existing driveway on 352?
Technically, my understanding is if they demonstrate that it is a consistent class of driveway and PennDOT does not believe that there is a significant change in the operations, and PennDOT has, as you're aware, but the rest of the planning commission may not be, their driveways are classed on volume. So low volume, medium volume, high volume. If PennDOT felt that they fell within the same range as they were already permitted for and that the use did not provide such a significant change, the permit could be transferred. There is a process to do that from one owner to the other. But I think, as had been presented at the sketch plan, we were told that there were already some discussions with PennDOT, and we've been expecting that there to be some sort of application process to PennDOT.
Thank you. I guess I have one last question, and maybe the applicant, mentioned this when you were here the first time. Are you going to own this property, or are you leasing it? You own it now. Okay. And all right, as opposed to leasing it from some other entity. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Is there any comment from the audience? No. Is there any comment from our remote audience? Mr. Simkovich? He's muted. All right, very good. So you're coming back.
Yes, we appreciate the feedback tonight. We'll take this. We're going to amend our application, address the comments from your consultants, come back in with a full package where hopefully then we can be in front of you with a much cleaner review letters and talk about potential recommendation.
Very good. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We
sir.
appreciate it.
Thanks for the presentation, and thanks for taking into consideration our concerns that we expressed at the previous meeting.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Federico.
Planning Commission used to meet at 7:30 years ago.
Yes. But not for a couple of years.
We used to meet at 7:30. It's my proudest accomplishment as a commission member that I drove the effort to have a meeting at 7 o'clock.
So you're to thank. Thank you.
Yes, I'm the one.
Okay, we're going to move on to the amended agenda, and we're going to take up the township official zoning map amendments. Several amendments are proposed to certain zoning district boundaries depicted on the township official zoning map, last amended on July 17th, 2017. The proposed amendments include boundary changes affecting Craverly Preserve, Darlington Inn, Westminster Presbyterian Church, Westtown Village-owned property, and a portion of township-owned property located between Wilmington Pike and Old Wilmington Pike. The public hearing to consider the adoption of the amendments is scheduled for July 6, 2026. Now, Planning Commission has reviewed these proposed zoning changes. So I asked Ms. Carter, is there something in particular that you want the Planning Commission to do?
No, I would like a motion, and the reason why is because the Planning Commission has reviewed those amendments together with the comprehensive plan, and I would prefer to have a clean motion as it relates to a zoning map. In the meeting minutes, there is a motion related to comprehensive plan amendments, but not to a zoning map. So I just want to make sure that formally we have a motion before it goes to the hearing. Nothing has changed since the last time you've discussed it. It's more of a formality.
Okay, so a motion is in order.
We want to have comments or anything?
Well, we
Sure.
can have comments
I thought that was
after.
Mr. Sinkovich wanted to talk about.
Oh, there is
Yeah.
the raised hand.
I think there should be a motion
Okay.
on the floor.
Procedurally motion first.
Yes, that's my preference.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that, the planning commission, should approve what should I call it? The changes to the zoning map ordinance as, presented and drafted before us tonight in a document provided by Ms. Carter.
It's good enough for me. Is that good enough for you? Second is in order.
No, it's not good enough.
All right.
I would simply like to amend it to say that we recommend that the board approve it. I know that's what you meant.
Yes,
You accept the,
I accept the change,
All
yes.
right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, comment and discussion. Commissioners, any comments, any discussion? We've been through this. Is there any comment from the assembled audience? Is there any comment from Mr. Simkovich?
Yes, there is.
Yes, sir.
Don't-
Proceed.
Tony Simkovich, am I unmuted?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Tony Simkovich, 821 Kimberly Lane in Westchester. I'd like Mila to pull up slide 10 on the map so I can better understand what's on that map.
Slide, the zoning map.
The packet that was sent out as part of the meeting, I think it's slide 10 or item 10.
Oh, it's in the packet. Okay, yeah, I can pull up the map. Hold on.
Yeah, a couple of questions.
Sure.
All right, well, when I get to the top of the map, C2, C1 to the right of Westchester, I'm assuming that's West Goshen, not Westtown.
Hold on, let me pull up the map. Okay, right here.
And Westchester bypass cuts through C2 and C1.
Right here, yes, it does.
All right, so that's West Goshen, I believe, but I could be wrong.
Well, there's a small boundary line that separates East Bradford Township and West Goshen Township. But I
Correct,
think you're,
but it's
I
not.
think you're, go ahead.
But it's not Westtown, right?
No, I don't see Westtown on here. I see in small letters, West Goshen Township, Chester County, right above the MU district, which is in blue. Is that where
Okay.
you're,
No,
is that,
no, what I'm seeing in yellow is Westchester University, and then in red, C2 and C1.
Oh.
yeah,
Yes,
yes, okay.
Yeah, so I'm
Those are
assuming that's West Goshen and East Bradford.
No,
No, it's
that's,
Westtown.
those are the portions of Westchester University and our C2 and C1 districts, which are located in Westtown Township.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that. And is that so that's Westtown. Well, then my next question is, where's Robin's Nest Lane on the map?
right here.
Yeah, and it's not a public road.
Right,
Yep,
it's a
it's not-
private,
it's not-
yeah, it's a private
That's why
road.
it's not labeled. Yeah, that's
Okay.
why it's not labeled. It's right here.
So what is that area, C2 and C1, that's over there, that's in Westtown? Is that across from Parkway?
Well, the C1 and C2 are zoning districts in which certain uses are permitted by right and by special exception and conditional use, but it's mostly for commercial purposes.
Correct, but is that like vacant land now, right?
No.
It's owned by Westchester University, I believe.
Yeah, is it vacant?
Try to remember if
Yeah,
anything
I think it
else.
is.
Yeah,
Well, I'm trying to say when you come back, when you come across the bypass, you know, it's the west, the parkway's on the right. And as you loop around, it's basically wooded area until you hit parcel 1014, which I think is the gas station.
it's right here. Gas station is right here.
Yeah, and number one is the land next to the gas station, I assume.
Right
Parcel
now,
one.
right now it's residential.
Okay, so item 2 is also residential, I think. Plot 2.
Yes,
And then 1022 and 1026 and 1030 are, I'll say, the Westtown Meat Market area.
no, Westtown Meat Market is only 1030.
Okay, 1030. All right. And then the 1032 and 1036 will be where that landscaping firm's trying to build an entity.
Correct. And they're also buying or hoping to purchase 1026 that's owned by the same entity.
Ah, okay, good. All right, now I'm going down to item 103, south of Stetson. And it's designated R3. Isn't that the daycare center?
Correct. There is a land development plan that was approved, Rob, help me out, 2005. And a part of that land development plan, part of the property is daycare, and another part of a property is professional building, which has not been built yet.
Yeah, that was a two-story medical office building.
Mhm.
Okay. So is that being proposed to go commercial?
It's been already, the land development had already been approved. It just has not been built. No, it's still R1. It remains R1.
Well, it says R3.
Oh, R3, I'm sorry.
R3.
Yeah, R3 allows for residential and office uses.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I would have thought that would have been commercial, but if it's office, then that makes sense. And then last question is R1. Is that being revised from R1 to commercial?
No,
No,
that's a private in-holding that extends into the new Cray-Billy Preserve. It's
Got it.
privately owned.
Got it. And the other question I have is, I'm going to the actual sections of the ordinance that was proposed. Let's get my notes here. What are sections 4 and 5 on the map?
it is the tiny parcel that's squeezed in between Old Wilmington Pike and Wilmington Pike that belongs to this shopping center. It's the same parcel number. Chester County, for whatever reason, failed to consolidate the deed. When there was a consolidation plan recorded back in 2003, have to look back at the dates. So that belongs to the shopping center and it is within the PennDOT's right of way, or majority of it. And the other parcel is this tiny parcel between Old Wilmington Pike and Wilmington Pike that had been owned by the township for a very long time. And this portion that was AC is now going to be T for township.
And is R1 anywhere on those 5 sections?
Yes, R1 remains on the other section of the township property as it was before.
All right, but it's not accounted for in any of the 5 sections on the ordinance.
Yeah, because it's not being changed. It remains the same. It's R1 right now and it remains R1. It's not being changed.
Got it. Thank you much.
Sure.
All right, is there any other comment? There's no other comments, so I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? No opposed, the motion carries. So now we move on to the next item of old business, which is ordinance amendments, pipeline safety. Recap of the discussion with the Board of Supervisors regarding a potential ordinance to regulate development and construction activities in proximity to pipelines. I'll start by indicating that Mr. Pingar and I were at the Board of Supervisors workshop on Monday, this past Monday, June 1st. And we presented a number of issues or concerns that we had concerning the draft, our deliberations regarding pipelines, as well as the draft pipeline ordinance that had been created by the staff. And we did get some feedback. And Mr. Pingar, do you want to describe that, or should
Be
I?
my, I know it's somewhere. Yeah, it was challenging to get feedback because I'm not sure that the board really knew what they wanted to do. And there was a back and forth professionally. And we were able to come, the board gave us some guidance. Because they recognize the quandary of regulating two things: new pipelines in existing right-of-ways or new developments where there are existing pipelines. And they didn't want to, for lack of a better term, penalize existing property owners with too many regulations that would be challenging for them to comply with and having to always go before the zoning hearing board if this was a zoning ordinance. And I'll get to the difference between zoning and subdivision in a minute. So they didn't want to challenge them with that, but they recognize there might be a difference between new improvements in those existing properties that are habitable, meaning people live there, versus something like a shed where you're just storing something. So that's a factor that has to be included. And did I misspeak in any way?
That's good.
And they did recognize that there are many existing properties adjacent to pipelines, and irrespective of whether they realize that they live near them or not. And I suspect maybe some people don't realize it. I guess if they wanted to do some sort of improvement like a pool or a shed, that there will be something in the ordinance that will require them to be notified that, yeah, this can be approved, but please note that this improvement is going to be near a pipeline, a potentially hazardous pipeline. So that's one, again, another factor that would be included in the ordinance. And then lastly, to have an ordinance that would be specific to new development. In other words, the ground is not developed currently, but someone wants to put houses in like at Stokes. And Stokes is another matter, and it's kind of too late for that. And I'll get to that in a second. The ordinance would apply to new development near an existing or proposed pipeline. So let me back up, and I know I'm being long-winded, but this is all in my head, and I feel as though I need to get it out there. While we recognize that if it's in a zoning ordinance, it's out of the hands of the Board of Supervisors, whereas if it were subdivision ordinance, it'd be in their hands, but they would only deal with it if it was a subdivision or land development, which many improvements proposed are simply building permits like a pool or shed. So it wouldn't come before the board necessarily. Did I gather that correctly?
Yep.
So it would be, I guess, advisable from what I gathered, and the solicitor was there. We listened to him too, and he weighed in a little bit. To be in zoning, so then it's the zoning hearing board's decision-making purview. So I suppose if we all agree, and ultimately the board agrees, we would craft this, which currently is the draft, the first draft, or maybe it's a second draft, to be part of the zoning ordinance. With respect to Stokes, the approval of Stokes, even though it's sort of expired, the preliminary approval, that runs with the land, irrespective of who owns it. And it's good for 5 years. So if nothing happens in 5 years and we could change the ordinance, I guess, from what I gathered, the new ordinance would apply to any new development that goes in there. But so they're effectively grandfathered for 5 years, whether it's built by the current applicant or let's say flip it to a different developer, it's still grandfathered. So there's nothing we can do about that proposed development. These ordinances would not apply to that development. Did I get that correct? It would not apply.
Yes.
So that's everything I gathered. And I'm sure Mr. Embiid could add color to it.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One of the basic questions I think that we need to confront is, should this be something that goes into our subdivision and land development ordinance, or is this something that should go into our zoning code? Chester
Or
County.
both,
Excuse me?
or both.
Or both, yes. There might be a hybrid approach needed, in my opinion. Saldo requirements are waivable by the Board of Supervisors, so that gives them flexibility, more so than if certain provisions are in the zoning ordinance. If you want to get a variance or appeal those, you go to the zoning hearing board, which is out of it's not under the direct control of the Township Board of Supervisors. So I think we'll probably end up with some provisions in zoning and some provisions in Saldo if we can come to some agreement. But it seems to me that there are at least 4 different kinds of issues here. The first issue is, should we adopt or recommend provisions that affect new pipeline developments? And what I mean by that are new pipelines in new corridors. So the example I'll give is, let's say that Energy Transfer Partners says, we want another pipeline and we can't fit it in our existing easement through which Mariner 2 pipeline goes. So we're going to apply to the Public Utility Commission or to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for permission to build a new pipeline. And we'll put it someplace else in your township. So we would have an opportunity to set land use type restrictions on development in a new pipeline corridor. Remember, we can't regulate safety. We can't regulate what it's built, how it's built. We can't regulate whether it has cathodic protection, blah, blah, blah. That's not our purview, but we can say how far away this pipeline has to be from certain things. And one of them are that Mila has described for us are these critical types of facilities: hospitals, daycare centers, schools, Dunkin' Donuts, churches, and other stuff like that. And I think that we have an opportunity to utilize the type of setbacks that the Chester County Planning Commission has suggested for those uses. Will that make it impossible for a new pipeline to be installed in a new pipeline corridor in Westtown? Given those setbacks and given we just looked at the zoning map, you see how Westtown is. There are probably only a couple of places where it might actually be, yes, thank you, be feasible. So you could run one through Westtown School, you could run one along the railroad corridor where the old Media Elwyn line goes. I mean, that would,
Wouldn't they have to be fairly straight? Railroad corridor is kind of curvy.
well, it's not all that curvy. I mean, you see what happened on Stokes. So, I don't know, but I'm just raising this issue. If we choose to set, generous setbacks or isolation zones as recommended by Chester County Planning Commission, it would be, in my opinion, very difficult to locate a new pipeline or pipeline corridor through Westtown Township. That's a result that I would like to see, but as Mr. Pingar said, I'm only one of 7. That would be my preference. As well as we also have the right to dictate where surface facilities associated with the pipelines go. Where in our zoning map do you think it would be suitable? The only places I can think it would be suitable would be in the multi-use district or one of the commercial highway districts. But you need a lot of ground for, say, a compressor station. You got to have, I think FERC's recommendation is just a recommendation, is at least 20 acres. So, where are you going to get that? And the 20 acres is because FERC feels that it's advisable, though they don't always agree, that you need larger isolation distances because the compressor stations are very loud. They produce odors and they create a explosion and fire hazard. So you want them to be far, far away from other conflicting uses. So there's that issue. Do we want to regulate in some fashion new pipelines and new pipeline corridors? The next issue is, do we want to create ordinance provisions that relate to repairs to existing pipelines and existing surface uses? Now, I'm not really aware of any pipeline surface uses in Westtown Township. There are no compressor stations, there are no metering stations, there are no valve stations that I know of. But we probably could exercise at least some control over repairs, but we would have to define what repairs are. And what I'm getting at is we would want to make sure that the pipeline company, under the guise of repair, doesn't completely reinstall a larger pipeline. Okay? They might say, Enterprise or Buckeye might say in the Stokes situation, so it's an 8-incher, we want 15. Right. So I think that to address that situation, I think we can address that situation and we would adopt some provision that says that if you want to expand the pipeline size in a significant way, then these setbacks now exist. Now, would that make it difficult for a pipeline, for Enterprise or Buckeye, for instance, hypothetically speaking, to do that? It might. The next issue is, should we have ordinance provisions that affect the installation of new pipelines and new surface structures in existing pipeline easements? Okay, this is not repairs. This is new pipelines, like, and the example is Mariner Two was a new, two completely new pipelines in the Energy Transfer Partners corridor. And they did that by trenching and by directional drilling. If the township would adopt provisions that establish different kinds of isolation distances for new pipelines in existing corridors, that would also create obstacles to that process. And finally, should we consider isolation distances in the opposite direction? And this is what you were talking about, Mr. Hagar, and that means, should we consider setbacks for new residential developments or new residential human habitable structures or anything else in proximity to existing pipeline corridors? And then, we could also consider different standards for new developments that involve religious, educational, healthcare, institutional uses. I mean, more people would be affected by proximity to pipelines and potential hazards created. And then, should we make some sort of distinction between habitable structures development and other things like pools and sheds in properties that already abut pipeline corridors? I think it's clear that the Board of Supervisors did not want to restrict activities like swimming pools and sheds close to the pipeline corridor. They might consider some sort of regulation if it involves, for instance, accessory dwelling units that are detached on the property and in closer proximity to the boundary of the pipeline corridor. So, the draft that the staff came up with deals with a lot of those issues. So we could spend some time going through the draft to see what we think, or we can discuss some of these issues in a conceptual way to see where we are.
If we put into place an ordinance that essentially makes it possible, put in a new pipeline corridor in Westtown, does that,
It's a legal question I don't know the answer to.
what's a conflict with the pipeline people's rights to put the pipeline in your front yard?
Well, I will say this, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania tried to do that with the promulgation of a new oil and gas act. And they tried to take away the township's right to zone in certain circumstances. And the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, in a plurality decision, said you can't take this power away from municipalities. They have the right to determine where certain things go. And so I think that if we couch proposed ordinance changes in a way that strictly focuses on land development and zoning issues, area bulk, isolation distances, we're on pretty safe ground. And I can't remember the case, but in Pennsylvania, townships are required to accommodate all uses in their township. But for instance, they don't have to give you the best place to have it. So the example I'll give in several surface mining cases was the townships basically said, well, you can have surface mining over here in our industrial district. And the mining companies say, well, the rock isn't there. The rock's over here in this zoning district. And we gotta be able to mine it over here. And those cases upheld the township's ability to say, look, we provided for it. I mean, you can have some soil and gravel over here, but you can't get the coal that's over, or the trap rock that's over here. So I think if we stick, if you have an appetite for this, if we stick to zoning, classical zoning stuff, we can make it so that it is difficult. But we don't want to say that we're making it impossible.
The main motivation for the restrictions that we're talking about is safety. And what I do, there's a little spreadsheet that Mila made up with a mini spreadsheet with the number of units and how close they are, for the radius. So the reason I'm raising that is because if the Board of Supervisors doesn't seem to have an appetite for restricting parcel use, like if somebody wants to put in a pool, if they want to put in a shed, then I don't know that it makes a lot of difference, because this is all about the acceptable distance that you would want to be from the blast site, if you will, right? I mean, that's what we're thinking about, is catastrophic problems. And putting pools, sheds, anything else in closer proximity to the pipeline raises the level of activity that's going to be conducted near the pipeline. And if that's what the Board of Supervisors sees as acceptable risk, then are we on a fool's errand here if we're trying to increase distance of development of any sort from the pipelines?
But that's only one of the issues, which is, do we want to create isolation distances from regarding structures or uses that are close to the pipeline, as opposed to, do we want to create setbacks that relate to pipeline activities and operators? And which I don't think they expressed any opinion about.
So what you're saying is, like, if the pipeline people want to come in and build, I don't know, a booster station or something like that, that's what we wanted, by virtue of having these setback requirements, whatever they may be. In that way, we are allowed to, in essence, restrict what the pipeline operator can and can't do.
I believe, I mean, this is a question for Pat, but I believe under current law, we're allowed to do that.
Okay. And that would be something that would be, at least if that's built into the ordinance, that's something that seems palatable to Board of Supervisors.
I don't think they addressed it specifically. We outlined those issues, but most of the discussion really focused on what is the impact of setting these isolation districts on existing parcels and existing residential uses. And I think that they were more in favor of not restricting property rights as opposed to imposing isolation distances for safety reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's a policy choice. Well, you can't.
This is a very frustrating topic, because it's so, we're not a blank canvas anymore.
Yeah.
It's really the time to have drafted this ordinance, passed an ordinance was 50, 60 years ago. We can't go back in time.
Build
So-
a time machine.
Wait, we didn't have zoning 60 years ago,
It was in 1963.
69.
Oh, that
NPC was
right. Okay.
Well, couldn't we have had zoning even absent the MPC?
Yes, you're absolutely right. You can have zoning.
So it's a real challenge, but I would suggest that we come up with something and not overthink it. And if someone appeals it somewhere down the line and we lose, we lose.
Has there been any? So there's this excellent draft. I thought. Did they have any? Did they have any look at this or say anything about this draft?
I don't believe so.
No.
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 Yeah, most of the discussion had to do with only regulating new construction for future lots, definition of a new and replacement, repair, and the potential for a two-tier ordinance where you can regulate new and maybe existing structures that are habitable, but not accessory structures. I think that was all from what I remember.
Yeah, and again, the example is if you have a parcel that butts a pipeline corridor and you want to build a detached accessory dwelling unit closer to the pipeline boundary, should you be free to do that using only the existing setbacks, property line setbacks, building coverage, stormwater that exist now in our zoning ordinance? Or should we say, or should we recommend an ordinance that says we don't want anybody living 1 inch closer to the pipeline? Not 1 inch. I don't think the Board of Supervisors.
And there's also an issue of during construction. We see it all the time with any sort of easements when somebody is building something so close. You do have to access it on another side. So you are with heavy equipment in on top of easement, digging for a pool or foundation or but it's easier to control when it's stormwater easement or sanitary sewer easement because it's not going to blow up. But with the pipelines,
Yeah, on that, I agree. I think we should adopt provisions that require developers and residents to understand what activities are permitted in the pipeline corridor if they have to access it for construction purposes. And that means they have to tell us that they know about the corridor. They have to tell us that they've contacted, in this case, for instance, Buckeye or Enterprise to get approval for what they're going to do in the easement, in the pipeline easement area, if they have to access it. Just like we're going to hear from Stokes when they finally get around to giving us a new plan, they're going to have to figure out how they're going to cross the pipeline corridor. They have to do that because that's what their residential design calls for. So we're going to see at some point what Enterprise and Buckeye say they can do and what they can't do. I think we should insist on that. And so we could build that into to an ordinance. Even if we're not going to create new setbacks for, on these residential parcels for ADUs or pools or sheds, I think we should build in something that says, you have to understand where the easement boundary is, and you have to understand that you can't affect that easement in a way that's hazardous for you and for pipeline operation. There must be a way that we can build in language requiring them to prove to the zoning officer that they know where the easement is and they know what they're going to do and the pipeline company's happy with it.
Mila, do you know if property owners know where an easement is on their property?
Not all the time. We just had a situation, somebody bought a house and wanted to build a detached garage and came in with the plan, and they even asked, I don't understand why my adjacent properties have this large yards and they're not building anything. Well, it's because it's 50-foot pipeline easement runs through the back. So yeah, people buy homes and they don't read the deed. Real estate agents are not disclosing or don't know this information. It happens all the time. So what we do, we educate.
But I guess a title search would discover where the boundaries of the easement is. But,
Subdivision
I'm
plan, yeah.
not suggesting to ask them to do that, but I don't want to, I don't think we should make this more
Difficult.
challenging for you and your staff with respect to issuing permits for accessory uses either. And I don't want to burden property owners either, but at the same time, I think the township wants to protect them from themselves for any work that's nearby that they don't even realize. They could do a one call, of course, but some people don't.
And we do have lots of sheds inside the sanitary sewer easements that we are trying to rectify.
Sheds and fences
Mm-hmm.
and landscaping.
Yeah, I mean, whether the township can enforce something like this is yet another question. And how difficult it would be. But I agree with you. We shouldn't create something that makes it really burdensome for Mila and the staff to enforce. But we do want to have, I believe that we do want to have a set of regulations in place that allows us to take action should we feel it's important.
You can always require property survey on all the properties for larger projects that do have a pipeline easement.
Yeah, I think your building application, permit application should state, I think there should be a box that says, issue property adjacent to, any kind of utilities.
Oh, we do ask that. We ask to indicate all the easements on a site plan, but we check when it comes in because people don't know. And there is different product that carries through pipeline and it comes with different setbacks. And there is also HDD that right now we are not proposing to include in the draft. It's very complex.
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting, and we talked about it a little bit on Monday night with the board. We have all these different types of materials in the pipeline in this ordinance. But it's important to note that they could change the product and they can actually reverse the flow of it to go in a different direction. So when we say, I don't know, natural gas and it's really diesel fuel, it could be diesel fuel the next day or days hence, right? So I wouldn't get too
Into materials.
in the minutia of different types of products and what to do. Like we all have all these different pipelines. Again, that's this neat little chart you developed. And there's something in them now, but that could change tomorrow. And I don't know if the direction of flow matters so much as what's in them. Maybe the pressure they're running at is important too.
All of those things are subject to regulation, but not by us. The Adelphia pipeline, I think part of it goes through Westtown Township, was repurposed by a new corporation and they reversed the flow. We went from Marcus Hook up to the Martins Creek Power Plant, and then there was a junction that went westbound. And they needed, I think they wanted to bring some sort of LPN, liquefied
Liquid propane.
natural gas from Marcus Hook up to the generating station. And they also wanted to send it westbound for other uses. And so they created new compressor stations, off ramps, on and off ramps, metering stations, valve stations.
Is there a possibility they could want to put new surface facilities in Westtown?
Not the way that it's written now.
Well, no, I think the question stands independently, which is, let's say Buckeye wants to put a compressor station someplace along the existing pipeline corridor. Right now, we don't have any specific ordinance provisions that relate to surface uses of pipelines. So our regulatory control would default to whatever it is we've got. Meaning setback from the, from the easement line or whatever it is. So if they wanted to put a compressor station, maybe that's what we should ask them to, never mind. So,
I think what I'm hearing you say is it's not likely, but it is possible. So if that's the case, then
Well, everything
we
is
can't
possible.
regulate that, we should regulate.
I believe we should. We should, at a minimum, I think we should regulate surface uses associated with pipelines in that we want to regulate how big it is, where it is, how much building coverage there is, and where it should go. Now that one's touchy because if we say it can only go in the MU district, well, that's way far away from the Enterprise or Buckeye existing corridors. How could that be possible? Engineering wise, I guess it would be possible, but it would be almost impossible. But
Well-
we have the power to do that.
Yeah, and then we do have a regulation that permits it by right and MU. But it does say it has to meet the setbacks, which are 750 feet. That's page, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't number the pages.
Let's remember how we got here. What precipitated this whole discussion was the Stokes property. But, and I guess in the board's mind, let's not have a repeat of it. And that's wise. And in Stokes, it's too late. So if a development were to come in on, and there aren't many lands where there's remaining, where there are existing pipelines, that development will come in. But if they were to come in, let's have something instead of right now, which is basically nothing. Do we agree that that's kind of how we got here?
That's sort of where I am. And in doing so, we might be able to tease out some other provisions that are important to us.
And the board, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I get a sense that they're telling us and staff, we want to do something, but we're not sure what it is. You guys figure it out.
I think they want our recommendation and,
They have their full
That-
trust.
that's what we do. And if they, unfortunately, if they don't like it, our time is wasted. But I think we know, as we've said several times, we know that they don't want to they don't want to make existing parcels adjacent to pipeline corridors non-conforming in a large way. But do they want us to regulate new pipelines? Yeah, I think they would. Do they like us to regulate new residential developments or other critical facilities in proximity to existing pipelines? Yeah, I think they would.
Yes,
I think we would.
agreed.
So there's some of that in Miller's draft. So the next step, if we want to continue this discussion, would be to go through Miller's draft and see what we need to take away and what we need to add.
And I would suggest if every planning commission member might be thinking about like a bullet list of what are you thinking, whether it's a isolation distance or notification provision, then it would be easier to go over the list of bullet points of what the ordinance should include and then add to that. I see Jack has a very long list.
Ready? I'm ready. We want to.
Because it's easier if we have a list, then I can just take the list once you had a chance to discuss it and put it in a language instead of trying to keep rewriting the language without knowing what are you trying to regulate.
Is that how we want to proceed?
Go through your concerns.
Well, no, or make a sort of a punch list of things that we
That's what I mean.
think
Yeah.
we want to do. I mean, I tried to group this in the framework of some of the issues. New pipelines. Repairs to existing pipelines. Residential development in proximity to existing. I mean, that's how I did it. So I can, circulate this. It's a PDF to all of you and I'll give a copy to Mila and you can just sort of. see
Start
how
working on it. Okay,
You just see how I was trying to frame the issues.
okay.
That would be helpful to me.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Mila, I got a question for you. We always talk about staff.
Mhm.
Who are staff besides you?
In terms of zoning,
In terms of, crafting these draft ordinances.
oh, that just be myself and then our consultant from Cedarville Engineering, Tracy Franey, has been helping me with those. And she's great. She has a lot of experience being a zoning officer and drafting those different type of regulations. And she has a lot of experience with other municipalities, so she's full aware of different issues that other municipalities are exploring. So she's been helping me
Okay, so it's you and a consultant,
and her, yeah,
but not other people,
in the
staff in
office.
the office.
No.
Okay. Not to go venture too far off, but the board, correct me if you can disagree with me if you want, Mr. Chairman, they were really pushing us at this meeting Monday night
For conservation.
to do get this ordinance done and something to replace the flexible development because they approved the ordinance amendment eliminating flexible by a vote of 2-1. It was not unanimous. And the person who voted against it because we didn't have something to replace it with.
Mhm.
So they're encouraging us to come up with a replacement. So I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is I'm just worrying about your time
Yeah, so
to do both, this pipeline and the flexible development, which to me are running down kind of parallel tracks. I'm not sure which one's more important than the other. They're both important.
So my plan B, Chester County just rolled out an open space mini accelerator grant program, which they provide funding, and this would qualify. So I was waiting to see how the pipeline discussion would play out, and my plan was reach out to the county. They reached out to me to say that the ordinance conservation design related work would qualify under that mini grant program. And the county is interested in working with us under that grant program to be able to get the conservation design template done, ordinance done for Westtown. So I can give them a call, discuss what the cost would be. So our consultant would be Chester County for the conservation design with that mini grant. And I have to figure out how long it would take, what the budget would look like, and whether we have to wait for budget year 2027 to budget some funds towards this conservation design work. Because yes, it is a heavy lifting.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I didn't want to divert to off topic. And we can talk about that when we summarize the board meeting.
Okay.
I think there's a place on the agenda to do that. Again, I was just thinking about workload and who the staff is.
Yeah, no, we can, I have
For the
a,
pipeline.
yeah, we can work on pipeline. We can continue working on it. Tracy has been helping me on that to do research.
Do you have enough guidance from us? I mean, you were at the meeting Monday.
Yes, I think, yes, and
I think Mr. Embick has copious notes that he maybe wants to share, maybe not.
Yes, I took notes, and the discussion was helpful, and I can take the list that Jack prepared and go through and see what we can do, how to incorporate that for the next discussion.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be easier than fences.
I really, the lodestar is, the chicken.
Chicken coops.
Oh, no.
I mean, it has to be easier than that.
I don't know. We still don't have one.
We ain't ever gonna have one, far as I understand. Okay, so Mila has some
Guidance,
direction.
yep.
And is there anything else that we want to talk about with respect to pipeline safety? I'll entertain public comments from the assembled audience. And Mr. Simkovich. Still there? Yeah, his hand is raised. Speak, Mr. Simkovich. His hand is not raised anymore.
Huh. Oh, he's joining on his,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, let me get my act together. I have comments on item 3, the ordinance amendments for roles and responsibilities, but not on the pipeline.
Oh,
Okay, we're not there yet,
Right,
Mr. Simkovich.
right. Yeah, I don't have any comments on the pipeline.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right. So if we're in agreement, we're going to move on to the next item, which is ordinance amendments, roles and responsibilities of the planning commission. Is that okay with commissioners? We have a draft that Mr. Pingar put together. Oh, I remember I'll do the intro here is neither the township staff nor I or any other of the commission members can locate the existing organic ordinance that created the planning commission and set forth its duties and responsibilities. I know it exists because I read it several years ago.
that's why we are missing a copy of it.
No, I think that I saw it online,
Huh,
but it had to be perhaps 5 years ago. So I know that at one point it existed. But we can't find it now for some odd reason. And Mila has looked at the chronological ordinance book that most townships maintain, which goes year by year by
Mhm.
year. And it sets forth the ordinance amendments and ordinance enactments and resolutions and whatnot. And I would expect this to have been done in 1969 when the MPC was first enacted by the
Mhm.
Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I don't know if your book goes back that far. Or
it does. I have an original one and it does not refer to planning commission. It refers to, some sort of a board that reviews that reviewed land development plans at the time.
Well, maybe you
have to
could
look
share a copy of that if it's.
Oh, I can, yep.
The other thing I would suggest is, could we go to the Daily Local News and ask to see copies in or around 1969 of the advertisements that would have been required by townships to enact new ordinances. And in those days, they had to publish a complete copy in a paper of local circulation. So
I can do that.
if maybe a call to them saying, how can we access your archives if they exist? And if they do, Mila, I'd be happy to go and I'm sure it's microfiche. That's dreadful.
Well, I was hoping it's online.
No, not back to 1969. I'll bet if they have it, it's either a paper copy or.
Yeah, we went as far as we went through all the entire ordinance book dating back to 1969. There's nothing about that had to do with the planning commission.
So that's just a lead up.
And if that does exist, that's great. that we wouldn't have to do this unless we want to amend it. Well, which maybe we do because it might be stale because it's so old. Maybe.
But it also makes me wonder why it never made it in the E-code, if it did exist, in fact.
Yeah, that's where I think I saw it, but I haven't gone back through all of my planning commission stuff, and that goes back 10 years. So I'll do that as well before the next meeting. But if you could do those in your free time between midnight and 6 a.m., if you could do that for us, Mila, that would be, I think, very.
I wish AI can help me with that.
But in the meantime, I think that it would be helpful to go through Mr. Pingar's draft and see what we think, because it does track the requirements for the duties and responsibilities of planning commissions as they're set forth in the municipality's planning code, which is what we have to stick to, because that's what that limits our authority. So do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, I could introduce this, but I just want to note that there are two things that do exist for the planning commission. Number one, bylaws. And these were amended June 5th, 2006, adopted February 4th, 1998. I don't remember where I got this. I must have got it from you, Mila.
What is it?
Or it's the bylaws of the planning commission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bylaws. I had the bylaws and then I had the mission statement.
And the second thing we have is a mission statement, which I will opine is rather verbose, as mission statements usually are very brief, but that's a matter maybe for another day, maybe not. But what we did not have, or we could not locate, was an ordinance that created the planning commission. So we talked about this as a group previously, and I believe all 7 were here. And there may not be a consensus to even recommend this to the board, and that's okay too. But I thought it'd be wise to have something, because our ordinances have a section about the historical commission, the environmental advisory, whatever they are. Curiously, there's nothing about the board of supervisors.
And park and recreation.
Is there something in there for park and recreation?
I believe so, yes.
Board of Supervisors is in the second class township.
But
So what?
unless you would like to assign them additional duties.
We don't have that power. What I did was, and it's very simple, I took another municipality, I think it was East Goshen, as a sample. And, it's, their ordinance is very basic. And it mimics what's in the MPC. I took that and I also folded in some items that were in this presentation by PSATs that some of us attended.
Yep.
Online, which was very good. And it had some really good bullet points as far as what we, certain powers that we could have. And again, this is all, we can make a recommendation to the board and they can agree or amend it or disagree. So that's all I did. And I think Mila looked at it and maybe made some edits and produced this May 2026 draft that we have before us.
Yeah, I did just some general cleaning up, and the actual functions. I merged some language was kind of repetitive, and then I left everything else that Rob suggested, because I wasn't sure if all of those would remain or not.
Yeah, and I have struck out, but I left in here so you can see what I struck out. 2 things, item L and M under qualifications, powers, and duties, because I didn't think that they were appropriate for this planning commission. But they came, I think, from the MPC or from the PSAT's presentation.
Yeah,
as
I think
things
they're
that
from the MPC.
could be done, but I don't know that we've ever done them, and I don't know that the board wants us to have the responsibility to prepare and present an environmental study or to submit a recommended capital improvement plan. So that's why I struck those, but I left them in so you can see what I struck.
The only, it's funny you bring those up, Rob, because I looked at the next two, N and O. And N to me didn't seem to be particularly meaningful. The present testimony before the Board of Supervisors or any commissioner board. I'm not sure I even know what that means.
Well,
And-
look, let me suggest a possibility, and that is in a case where the Township Board of Supervisors is sitting in its quasi judicial capacity, for instance, in a conditional use, and the Township Planning Commission wishes to be a party,
Intervene.
which has happened in certain situations.
Usually you did it through your solicitor.
Usually our solicitor would represent us, but if we wanted to present evidence, it may be necessary for a planning commissioner to be a witness. Usually you would expect our solicitor to pick, Kristen Camp would pick an expert, for instance. Let's say during the Stokes thing, we wanted to have an expert speak about pipeline safety. Well, that's what we would do. And one of us might present testimony about, what the planning commission did in its deliberations and what its concerns were.
And just so you know, that came right from the MPC.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And it's a somewhat benign and no, maybe that's the right word. It's, I was gonna say obtuse. I don't know. It's something that's just not very specific.
I just
Rarely done. And rarely done.
rarely done, but in the absence of a prohibition on that activity, presenting testimony, why is it necessary to have that provision in here?
Well, I guess if it's not in there, someone could say, the Board of Supervisors didn't authorize you to do that. Let's say we wanted to make a presentation to the zoning hearing board. In a case that, we made a recommendation, but, it was a situation where we wanted to address them in some way in a formal capacity.
But we're going to need the Board of Supervisors' permission to testify in front of them regardless. Anyway, I'm not too, I don't see the necessity for that. But the second one, conduct inspections, examination, and or surveys of township plans with permission of the property owner. Do we want to be conducting inspections? I mean, what's an inspection?
Well, perhaps it ought to be defined, but there might be certain circumstances where for instance, in a development, and the example I'll give is when we went to see the Stokes property. That could be described as an inspection of the property. And this formally gives us the authority to do that without having to go check with the Board of Supervisors. We could just call up the Stokes people and say, we'd like to come and see these facilities. I think we looked at the barn, we looked at the house, we looked at the road.
I usually call it site visits, not the inspections.
And if it said just conduct examinations, I would be okay. Inspections seems to imply that we have some
Checklist that you were.
Enforcement authority.
some enforcement authority. That's right, that we don't have. And that was why I was sort of troubled by it. Yes.
I'm okay to share enforcement authority with you.
What?
I'm okay
I don't-
sharing some
I don't-
enforcement
I
authority.
don't mind if we take inspections out, if it has a negative connotation.
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
I'm okay with that.
I don't think it does, but okay.
That was my.
But while you brought it up, surveys suggest something that I'm not sure we're qualified to do.
Again,
And maybe
yeah.
that comes out.
That's why the vagary of examinations I'm comfortable with, but inspections and surveys are, that raises an implication of technical expertise to me that we don't have.
Well, if we needed to, we would get an expert to help us. We would get Federico to do something.
So we do an inspection by proxy, by,
Well,
With the
it's like any
assistance-
inspection of property, you know, a client would go, an attorney would go, and some sort of an expert would go, and they would see what they needed to see. I don't have a problem if you just want to leave it with examinations, because I do agree that inspections and surveys have additional connotations. Does a survey mean a a boundary survey? Is that what we're talking about? Or is it some other assessment?
I mean, if you want to put in conduct examinations and, I mean, we're already empowered to employ experts, right?
Yes.
Actually, we're empowered to do anything we want so long as the board of supervisors gives us that power. No, I didn't mean it to be funny.
Be careful what you ask.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. That's
Just be
cor-
careful what you're asking for. I don't know. if you
And
have more power.
likewise, if the board of supervisors says, we don't want you doing that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We
I
can
mean,
do
it
it.
doesn't, I don't think this, I'll repeat this. Doesn't mean, because it's listed, doesn't mean we have to do. It means that in an appropriate circumstance, we can do it.
Yep.
And in most cases, if it's going to result in the expenditure of funds, we got to go to Milla to ask the township board of supervisors for approval to spend money.
And you would notice that I added in those provisions that the board can choose to pay planning commission members. It is actually more common now across Chester County, and the reason why it's because of lack of volunteers, because it's a lot of time that people invest into coming to
Really?
meetings. So a lot of municipalities are asking for, a lot of municipalities provide pay for commission meetings to each of the members.
My rate,
It's not a large pay.
my rate is excessive these days.
It's an incentive.
But otherwise, I mean, fundamentally, I'm fine with this. And Rob, thanks for doing it, you know?
You're welcome. It was very easy to do.
Well,
Just copy.
So I'm gonna
it's okay, you can still take credit.
I think we're
Thank you.
okay with this.
Okay,
I think we should table it
Okay.
until Milla gets a chance to do the few
more searches.
searches, and I'll go back through all my PC records to see if I can find it. I thought it was in my database, but it's not.
Yeah, I don't know how it would not be in a book. They're all numbered by year, and it just, there is no gap
Yeah.
in any ordinances.
Well,
Certainly,
and I'd like to have the whole planning commission here before we act on it.
yeah. Agree.
Okay.
Mr.
Oh.
Simkovich, you were interested in making some comments about the ordinance, the draft ordinance.
Yes. Bear with me here. Okay. I got 5 comments. Oh, on the ordinance or on the draft?
On
for
the-
dis-
The draft ordinance for the planning commission duties and authorities.
Correct. I would start with item B. Do you want to add a line about the involvement you have on the Krebly RFP?
So you're talking about section 7-3B?
I guess I'm looking at item B on the agenda, pages 1 to 3, and it was under 7-3
Yeah, 7-3B here.
Yeah, does that fit there in terms of, evaluating or being involved in the Krebly RFP process, or a separate item?
I think we're not on the same
Oh,
page.
no, I think what Mr. Simkovich is saying, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Simkovich, is that does this section authorize the planning commission to participate in the planning process for establishing a master plan for the Craigbilly Preserve?
Or providing input to it, one or the other, either that or a separate item.
So,
I heard him ask about the RFP.
Yeah, and so that would be.
And evaluating it as well in terms of input.
Yeah, should the planning commission have a role in reviewing the RFP? And then should the planning commission have a role in the planning process and the public participation process for establishing the plan for development of the Craigbilly Preserve?
Correct.
I think that's something that I think that we could do that if the board asks us to do it. But
Correct.
the comment I'd make is that the board's going to establish a separate body that will do that.
Correct, yes, you
So they
would
might
not,
appoint, a member of the planning commission. For instance, they might say, well, we want Mr. Pingar to represent the planning commission during this process.
Mhm.
Rather than saying we want the planning commission to have this particular role in the review.
Then maybe add a line that says request participation. And let them decide.
Yeah, in terms of the planning process, there is usually just one recommended body. So in Master Park, in any sort of Master Park planning study or comprehensive plan process, it's not the planning commission, it's a committee that the Board of Supervisors establishes, which might include members of the planning commission, a member or two members of the planning commission.
And section T does say undertake such planning tasks as assigned by the Township Board of Supervisors. So if the Township Board of Supervisors wanted the planning commission as a whole to participate in the Craigbilly Preserve planning process, they could ask us. But I don't think they're going to ask us because they're going to establish a separate planning organization to do that.
Okay, thank you. Item number F. Do you want to put any dates as far as a start date to update the comprehensive plan and an end date target?
Well, this is just my opinion, Mr. Simkovich. I don't think we have to do that because the MPC specifies when the comprehensive plan updates should occur.
Okay. Okay, and the next three are items that were deleted, items L, M, and excuse me, P. Are they ones that someone else picking up the ball, or it wasn't decided that it was necessary by anybody in the township?
I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Simkovich. I think that if an environmental study was desired, the Board of Supervisors would ask the Environmental Advisory Commission to do that. Regarding item M, a capital improvements plan, it's my understanding that the Planning Commission has never done that. And the capital improvements planning is usually conducted by the Board of Supervisors during the annual budget planning procedure. And if the Planning Commission wants, or any public citizen wants to comment or involve themselves, they have an opportunity to do it in connection with those budget planning discussions.
And my last comment is just something out of the blue. Anything you want to put in there regarding the role in working with the Historical Commission on preservation projects at all?
I don't see any problem in doing that if the Board of Supervisors wants us to do that, and that would probably fall under this catch-all that is described in subsection T.
Okay.
But you want something specific saying that the Planning Commission should do it?
Yeah, that was the thought, because we have a lot of historical things that come up across the township, and it might be a good idea to put something in there just as a placeholder.
Okay, I think we can consider that. I mean, usually we comment on ordinances that the Historical Commission is developing. So as they complete the historical resources or historic preservation ordinance, that certainly will be reviewed by the Planning Commission as well as the Chester County Planning Commission, because it will be a township ordinance. So we do that ordinarily, but it's not specifically mandated here. It's covered by other provisions, I believe. I don't know if the rest of the commissioners agree. But it's a good thought, Mr. Simkovich. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to provide input.
You are most welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Yes, all right, now where's my agenda? What happened to my agenda? I know, I don't think so, but may I have it for a second? Thank you. All right, now we're down to public comment on agenda items. Is there any additional comment, Mr. Simkovich? No,
He's still there.
Nope. No, I'm good.
Thank you. So we're going to move on to reports. And the report is the Board of Supervisors meeting of June 1st, 2026. Mr. Pingar was there and took notes, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but I ask that you give a report, which I will supplement.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. It was a lengthy agenda and there were your usual departmental reports, and unless the commission wants to hear from me to recite whatever they were in those reports, I'll just jump ahead to old business, new business.
Please do that. We can always read the minutes if we have to.
Under old business, I was confused by this first item. Consider reapproval of the preliminary final subdivision application for 1001 South Walnut Road. That must predate my time on the planning commission, because I don't remember seeing that plan unless it was at a meeting I did not attend.
Yes, it was reviewed by us before you were a member of the planning.
And it was approved. It was reviewed, approved, the approval, the Board of Supervisors approved it. And we issued the approval letter that says that one of the items was the applicant had to provide a financial security before recording of the plan for the construction of aqua water main. So instead of providing that financial security for the township to hold, he went ahead and worked with Aqua and completed water main extension, revised the plan to show that water main extension on the plan, and came back to get the plan reapproved so that he does not have to post financial security. That's what the applicant was trying to avoid. So nothing has changed on the plan except for now there is a water line.
Yeah, but they were here arguing about the 8-foot wide sidewalk.
Correct.
That eliminated.
Yeah,
And so my question is, and the board approved it to be deleted. So I guess the final plan will not show that 8-foot wide easement for a future sidewalk.
yes, correct.
And I was just curious, what was the genesis of that easement? Did that come from the planning commission?
Yes.
And that was,
Yeah, the recommendation was because there is an opportunity to impose the pedestrian easement, just in case in the future there would be a sidewalk.
and the board originally approved it with
Correct.
that easement, and then they approved it without the easement. Okay,
Because the applicant basically argued that the 8-foot easement would remove from the applicant's ability to make additional improvements to the property, because he wouldn't be able to use that 8-foot by whatever it is, 200-foot section as space
Mhm.
or building coverage and whatnot, because it was
With
reserved.
pervious, because he already had to remove.
I don't remember specifically, but I think the planning commission basically said, sidewalks are important for public safety. And it may be true that many communities don't have them, but if you don't create easements for them, the likelihood is you will never have them. So it's fine to say that we don't think that in the foreseeable future we'll need an easement for sidewalk construction, but forever is a long, long time. So reserving that easement, the compromise proposed was, let's have a 4-foot easement, but there may be ADA issues associated with that. But I was certainly in favor of requiring a sidewalk easement because I think it enhances the walkability of communities and it helps pedestrian safety, especially kids congregating, at bus stops, for instance. That was mentioned. But, the board weighed, well, we're never going to have sidewalks there. Well, so why should we take away 8 foot by 200 feet from this guy so that he might be restricted in developing his property in the future? And that's the policy decision they made.
Okay, I understand. Thank you for the history. I'm going to move on. The board, and I've mentioned this earlier, by a vote of 2-1, approved the ordinance amendments deleting flexible development. The one nay was because there was nothing to replace it. We already talked about that. Is that something that's a work in progress? Is that fair to say?
Mr. Foster said, when are you
Ms. Mila?
ready to do it?
Is that, Mila, is that something that's a work in progress? Okay, very
And
good.
we might be able to get a grant from Chester County to help us.
I understand. And it was pointed out by the solicitor who was at the meeting that we do not have to have it. And I would argue, and I made the point, and I stood at the lectern. Some people call it a podium, but it's really a lectern.
We should label it.
We should because people don't quite get it. I made the point that there are several developments in the township that are already developed under that ordinance. So it's not like we have never used it. We have sizable developments for Westtown. As far as the replacement goes, this is just me speaking, all it has to be is a simple cluster development. So a cluster ordinance, that's all it really has to be. And I wouldn't seek, personally, I wouldn't seek a grant because they're gonna overthink it. And I know how planners are, no disrespect to planners, I know you're a planner. They're gonna overthink it and come up with, craft something that is as bad, if not worse, than we already did away with. That's my thoughts. Anyway, that's me. Moving on to new business, things that are relevant to this planning commission, arguably the authorized advertisement for Oakmore Mansion parking area paving and lighting improvements. So I guess it's advertisement for actual construction. There's been a design done. Consider proposal for laser scan of Oakmore Mansion. That was approved to be done gratis. They acknowledge a resignation of Supervisor Ed Yost, and they nominate a new board chair, which is
Jody
Ms.
Noraki.
Noraki. And there was a bunch of announcements. There wasn't much in the way in the public comment that I recall. Agricultural Security Area Program. Authorized advertising for 7-year review of Agricultural Security Area ASA program.
So yeah, the public comment period will expire. Agricultural ASA can meet with me, review if there are any comments, we make recommendations that will come to the planning commission, we will review it, make recommendations to the board of supervisors. And I believe we have to wait 180 days for any requested additions before it can be adopted. But looking at the map, we are losing ASA throughout the township in terms of acreage.
Look at the zoning map.
Mr. Embick, did I leave anything out?
Yes,
consequence.
yes. Only one thing that I can think of, Mr. Pingar, that was an excellent report. But The one thing I wanted to mention is that Milla indicated that Chester County wants a seat on the Craig-Billy Preserve Planning Committee.
Mhm.
And that seems reasonable because they gave us 6 million.
Four, is it 4, 5? I have to look back.
It's so hard.
A lot of
It's so
millions.
hard when you're talking about millions, you know? But they do want to participate.
Yes, and the other grant funders just indicated they would like to be involved as being interviewed and just be aware of what's going on with the plan. They would like to provide input on the plan, but only Chester County expressed interest in actually sitting on a committee.
Would that be someone from their planning department or planning commission?
I assume it would be somebody from the Open Space Preservation Office, who is Monica. I think that's who's kind of responsible for open space program in the county.
All right,
Just
are
the-
there any other questions for Mr. Pingar? All right, the next PC meeting will be on June 17th at 7 PM. And the PC rep at the next Board of Supervisors meeting on June 15th at 7:30 PM is none other than the Honorable Mr. Senate. He's looking at his calendar now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking bad news is about to come. I'm thinking this is going to be.
And it's gonna be a very long meeting.
gonna be a problem. I'm gonna be out of state.
Mhm. All right. Who would be the sub for that?
I think it's Kevin.
Okay.
over 2.
Well,
So then it would be Jack.
just do consult, if you would, Mella, please consult Mr. Flynn
Okay.
about this assignment. And then if that doesn't work, I'll try to do it unless I'm somehow conflicted.
You can always assign it to Chris, who is not here today.
That's the way to do it, isn't it?
Right, the person that doesn't appear is the one.
All right, you know what this means now.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Opposed?